Let's do it.
All right. Greetings and welcome back, gentles and ladiesmen, to a extremely delayed episode of Unversed Cast, where we talk about the games of the year of 2024, the year of our Lord.
And I know what you're thinking. There were games in 2024?
I mean,
I guess.
you say that, but I've actually got like a decent list here, and I've got plenty of notes on them.
No, Michael, if I haven't played them, nobody's played them.
Well, I tried to recommend you some stuff so that you'd have a little bit.
Yeah.
Because last time we recorded when we talked about the Sonic movie and the fucking Knuckles show, which looks amazing, by the way. Like, I literally bought the 4K Blu-ray just so I could put clips of it in the review, and then, like, I'm watching clips of it out of context, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, last time you said that you had only played like 3 games, Ryan.
Yeah.
How could you?
And you know what my list is right now? Not including Shadow Generations. I have 5 games.
All right,
Well, there you go.
Strictly better, and
Yeah, I mean, like, there was also, like, let's say, old stuff that got re-released, some officially, some not so, that we can maybe talk about,
yeah, of course.
like, in the beginning. But,
whatever you want to talk about.
yeah, well, I want to talk about the time my dad went out to get cigarettes and milk, but he never came back.
I'm pretty sure Alex's dad still is around. Oh boy. I think I killed Ryan.
And what do you know? He'll still never be on this podcast.
He
no
won't be
matter
on
what.
this podcast. Well, yeah. Well, who wants to go first? Who wants to kick? Let's start off as usual with some pre-2024 games, so we don't have to talk forever about them, but I have a few.
Whoa. Now hold on. Has hell frozen over? We're just gonna get into it?
I mean, we can read a fan fiction if you want, but I've already got enough to edit as it is with, you know. I thought about doing like a fake out thing where I'm like, oh, Ryan, do you want to use one of your skips? When the truth is I have nothing prepared for today, just to see if you would burn your skip-em. But,
Well, joke's on you. I wasn't going to, but you know, let's go ahead and press on. Why don't you go first, Michael?
Oh.
Tell us about a game that you played this year
All right.
that was a catch-up or a disappointing game. Go ahead.
all right, well, first one I want to talk about, you might remember 100 years ago when we did our 2023 podcast, I mentioned a game called Cornhole 64.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out its name is actually Corn Kidz 64, and I actually did play this
Yes.
one, and it was pretty good. Apparently it's based on some other game. It's called Corn Kids because they're unicorn goats. They're like goats with a single horn, so they're unicorns, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And it takes place in like a dream. The story's kind of inconsequential, but the game definitely lives up on its gameplay. It's called Corn Kids 64, and it's definitely wears the Nintendo 64 influence on its sleeve. Because it's kind of funny, like, I've never been a huge fan of the N64 art style on its own, but for some reason these throwback games kind of do something for me, just because I had an N64 growing up, I guess. But basically, core game loop, it's a platformer where you play as a one-horned goat. You can use your horn to, like, spin things, and you have, like, a homing attack kind of deal, where, like, you jump in midair and then you home in on people with your horn. There's some...
So it's a Sonic game.
Besides that, not really. Obviously, there are the similarities there, but really what's interesting about Corn Kids is that the platforming takes advantage of the lateral part of 3D movement more than any other platformer I played in recent memory. Because, like, you've got games where you'll have, like, a ledge grab mechanic where you shimmy along stuff, but in this game, you can sort of, like, run along walls for brief periods of time, and you can bonk into walls to sort of boost yourself up. And there's a lot of platforming and puzzles built around this idea that you can sort of grab a hold of a tree trunk or something and run along its side to get around. And it's really interesting and unique, and I haven't seen a lot of games try to do that before. There are 3 major levels in the game. There's like a tutorial level. There's one big level called Wallow's Hollow. It's a palindrome. And then there's a 3rd level that's like a tower that you ascend. And then, if you decide to get all of the red cubes, you unlock a 4th level, which we'll talk about in a moment. And the 2nd level is the biggest and longest one in the game, and it's very intricate. And when I played that, I was like, wow, this is going to be like the greatest platformer I've ever played in a hot minute if it keeps up this level of quality, because the intricacy of Wallow's Hollow is really impressive, the way it kind of weaves in on itself. There's a system in the game. It's sort of a collectathon, but not really, in the sense that, like I said, there are these little red cubes. They're points, and when you collect enough, you level up. And then when you level up, you can open doors with certain numbers on them. So, like, there are these little puzzles and little secret areas hidden all around this huge map where you just look for cubes to level up so you can go to different parts of the level. And it all ends with a pretty good boss fight as well against an owl. And there's like I wouldn't call it a castle, but like a mansion in the center. And there's a giant tree that you go inside that kind of reminds me of Mario 64 DS. So that Wallow's Hollow was like the highlight of the game. And if this developer were to make a sequel where you had like 5 or 6 Wallow's Hollow tier levels, that is a video game right there that I would love to play. Now, the 3rd level is more like a standard linear platforming gauntlet where you just climb this large tower. And that one was pretty good too, just for what it was, but it does lead me to one of my complaints with the game, which is that it's one of those games where you have unlimited lives and you respawn every 5 steps, but they still insist on having a game over screen for no reason. You know, so it's like you're playing this level that is very kind of trial and error, kind of standard platforming design, which is fine. But then like every 5 times you fall off the tower, you got to sit through a game over spinning onto the screen, then spinning out. But, you know, that's like my biggest complaint with the base game. And then there's the 4th level, which I did not finish. You know how in Mario Odyssey there's like the dark side of the moon level or whatever, that's like a giant gauntlet that goes on for 45 minutes and there are no checkpoints? It's one of those. And I hate those kinds of levels. I say if you're going to put checkpoints in your game, then you should keep that up for the whole game and not be like, let's make a 15-minute long platforming sequence where if you die once, you have to redo the entire thing. Like, fuck that. So I didn't finish that, but the rest of the game is pretty good. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for, you know, a quick and dirty Steam game that does something a little bit different.
Yeah, I've seen it before. It looks pretty cute. I like
Nitro Red talked about it. I like him.
Yeah.
it. Looks cute.
So that was my first game. Who wants to go next? Who's got the bong?
Well, I think King takes sometimes. I think he has the bong.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
I mean, I guess game I haven't played, or I did play that didn't come out in 2024 rather, would be like, I think like the first thing I played in the year was Resident Evil 7. Which was really random, but I just kind of did it. And it was pretty good.
Biohazard?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They did the fucking thing they do with Yakuza, or the Yakuza 7. They renamed it to Like a Dragon, which is what it's named in Japan. It's the same thing with Resident Evil. They were like, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, even though that makes no fucking sense at all. But whatever. It's like saying Resident Evil.
I'd say the mold is a biohazard. And there are certainly evil residents in the game, so it works both ways.
But it's like saying Biohazard. It's just, it really bothers me.
Well, isn't it called like Biohazard Resident Evil in Japan or something?
It is.
I
Like,
don't
wasn't it,
think
like,
the Resident
flipped?
Evil is a part of the title. I think it's just called Biohazard.
I'm pretty sure it's Biohazard Resident Evil in Japan.
Oh, that makes it even more confusing.
Like, they're acknowledging both titles, which, I mean, Biohazard has always been the better title. I don't know why we're still using Resident Evil. If Yakuza can change its title, surely Resident Evil can at this point.
I still don't know why Yakuza changed it, because that's just like, everybody still calls it Yakuza.
Well, everybody
So, I
over
don't know,
here,
it just
but
seems,
point taken, yeah.
I don't know.
And as someone outside of that franchise, it's like, oh, but they're stopped being Yakuza after number 7. I'm like, but I've never played any of these games. I don't know what the hell Like a Dragon means. Do they unlock dragon powers?
Well, yeah,
Do they
exactly.
use like
Why
dragon
did they
kung
change
fu?
it? If they already, I don't know. It's like in One Piece manga, they call him Zolo because it was a typo, but they can't change it because it needs to be consistent with every English manga officially. So he's still called Zolo.
Are you
in the
serious?
manga, but nobody ever calls him that. Yes, I am serious. But people pretty much just like change the L to the R.
What do they call him? Rufy
No,
too?
it's just they accidentally, because it was a long time ago One Piece was first published in English, they accidentally translated it as Zolo. But because they don't want to reprint all the old manga, they just keep it up for the sake of
Wow.
consistency.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I assume the scanlations don't do that.
No, they don't.
Okay. All right. Well,
Um,
Resi 7, what are your thoughts on this game?
It was good. I don't know. It was good. I like the first person perspective they're going with. It's interesting for the series.
I did too. It was excellent.
I like the level design for the most part. I think the first half of the game is a lot stronger
Yes, 100%
than the
that.
second half of the game. Don't really know what happened to it. I guess a lot of Resident Evils kind of follow that trajectory. Like Resident Evil 2
Yeah.
kind of does a similar thing where like the game opens really strong. You're in like a huge non-linear police station, and then it just kind of turns into whatever it turns into at the end. The Resident Evil 7 has a similar trajectory.
You've never played the original 2, right?
I have.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. I have way more experience with the remake.
Yeah, because the sewer is a lot more intricate in the remake than it is in the original.
Hmm.
So like
I do remember the sewer, yeah.
the original is even more so that.
Sewer in the original had like spiders and shit, right? That was weird.
I think that might have been 3. I'm having difficulty remembering at this point.
But like 7 was, I liked a lot of the stuff going on in the house, and I thought that it was probably one of the scarier Resident Evils because of the perspective.
Oh yeah, that
So I
opening
think they got-
section.
Yeah,
I
they got good use out of that.
I'm not gonna lie, I got so scared I had to hide.
Yeah, it's pretty intense because Resident Evil isn't usually like scary. It's more
Yeah.
like pulpy, you
Yeah.
know. But this game was like proper scary for the most part.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of hard, like, because if you like Resident Evil, you'll probably like a lot of the level design. The puzzles are kind of easy, but there is one notable section where you're like trapped by a guy who makes you do like solved puzzles, and that was pretty tough. That was a standout section, I guess.
I have to recommend then one of the DLC packs.
Yeah, I did
where you
the
get
DLC,
to kill that guy.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun DLC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with the story. I think it's very strange. They were like, we want to reboot the story, but not really. And also, Chris does not look anything like he does ever
Yeah.
in any game.
Apparently, Roger
So I don't know
Craig
what's going on
Smith
there.
asked for too much money, so they didn't get him again.
And Ethan as a main character is hilarious. He is, I don't, like, he's just a dude.
Yeah.
But, and he can, like, pour fucking alcohol on his severed hand and, like, reattach it or whatever. I don't know.
They
And he's just
elaborate
kinda
more on
fine.
that in Village.
Yeah, I still haven't played Village. I don't
Village
know
is
why, I
pretty
just
good.
didn't- Like, I think I'll tell you why. Is because by the time I was done with 7, I liked the game, but by far the worst part of the game are the boss fights. I think they're
Yeah.
fucking horrific. Like, I hated them. There's a few in particular that drove me insane. There's one where you're in like a barn and there's water or something at the bottom.
Yep. I think it's a boathouse.
And that shit actually felt untested. Like, I'm sure they tried to balance that shit, but I had no fucking clue what to do for the most of that fight because it felt like no matter where I was, he would just get his pot shots in on you. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, I don't know. They were really bad.
You know,
And then
that's kind of a thing with first-person shooters is that, like, I feel like there's very, very few that actually have good boss fights.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the Metroid Prime games, but, like, what first-person shooter game besides, like, Metroid Prime actually has good bosses?
Well, yeah, and Metroid Prime really doesn't even feel like an FPS. So that's probably...
because of the
Well,
lock-on
I don't
mechanic.
really like the bosses in Metroid Prime anyway. I don't know about that.
Well,
I
on
mean,
a
they're hardly,
curve,
like...
they're better than...
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they're better than this, but, like, I still feel like they struggle in a lot of ways. I don't really know if it's an FPS exclusive thing. I'm trying to think.
The
I don't like
bosses in 2
Halo,
and 3
I
were
guess.
pretty good. It's Metroid Prime 1 where they're kind of like, Thardus is so boring. I mean, it's just the same thing over and over, and they do a better job of hiding that.
And like 2 especially make use of like Morph Ball and stuff, and like, so I don't know. I guess those games are just built a lot differently.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil 7 is like, there's a point at which it's Metroidvania-esque, but then it just becomes like an action game, and that's like by far where it's weakest.
I think a couple years ago when I did my retrospective on the whole series on this podcast, I basically said something to the effect of, it starts off brilliant, and then slowly but surely it turns into a Resident Evil game.
Mm-hmm.
It starts out like, oh, this is actually legitimately scary, and the main house feels like pretty intricate, and there are lots of cool puzzles. And then you get to that tanker section, and then from there onward, it's kind of like, this is just first-person shooter, basically.
Yeah. It pretty much drives off a cliff.
Which is why I like Village more, which I guess is maybe a hot take. I know Eric gave me shit for it when I shared it with him, but Village doesn't try to pretend that it's anything more than it is. Like, it has some creepy monsters and enemies in it. It's willing to wear the combat and inherit stuff from previous games without feeling like it's embarrassed to have to do that, if that makes any sense. That also kind of has the problem where it starts out more Metroidvania-esque and then turns more linear as it goes along, but at the very least, the game keeps resetting itself and going in a new, interesting direction every couple of hours or so. So I do recommend trying out Village when you get the chance.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for 7.
Ryan Kohai, what do you have for us?
Whoa! So, did you guys know that last year we actually got Golden Sun re-releases on Nintendo Switch on GOTY?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I'm finally talking about it. It's Golden Sun. Whoa!
Wow, I've never heard of this
I've
game
never
before.
talked about this.
You should tell us all about
Well, then
it.
let me tell. No, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, no, Golden Sun 1 and 2 got re-released on that Nintendo Online expansion packs thing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I, thankfully, do not pay for that because a friend of ours is actually very charitable and offered me an olive branch, and that's how I was able to play these games on NSO.
I see.
So that was kind of cool. And it's very appreciated. Thank you, King. I love you.
Hell yeah.
And olive branch.
I'll dance at your wedding. So... yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've talked about these games before, like on here, on my channel and everything. But I guess, like, it's still, to me, this service is not worth, like, the $50 that they're asking for.
Oh, yeah.
For, like, one person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cool. And I'm kind of, like, talking broadly about NSO, not so much the Golden Sun games here. Because one of the things that you can do with it is that if there's a game that has multiplayer, you can play online, like the F-Zero X on N64. You could play that online. Mario Kart 64, you could play that online. Golden Sun actually has a multiplayer battle mode that you can theoretically play online, which is really cool. But from what I hear the online's not really that good.
Oh, there's a surprise.
And one of the biggest disappointments I had while playing these games, and like it would have, they could have done like a small change that would have made these like the best way to play the Golden Sun games. There is still like no convenient way to transfer your data between one game to another.
Oh, really?
And I could have sworn I heard someone say that you could do that with NSO. Like, oh yeah, no, the data transfers seamlessly, so you don't have to do the
giant code.
6-page character password thing. So I'm like, oh sweet. No, you still have to do it. And it's like with how NSO is like doing all this stuff with online and save transferring and everything like that, you think they would do something like that, but they didn't do it. So they kind of dropped the ball there. But honestly, it still felt good to play through these games again. These are 2 of my favorite JRPGs. And yeah, I'm still just patiently waiting for the next one. So that's that. NSO's kind of not worth it, but there's some cool stuff in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a thing that exists.
It's a thing that allegedly happened last year. So
what happened? I'm sorry, my headphones disconnected, so I don't know if anyone was talking. So what's up?
We were just joking about the fact that you brought up Golden Sun as a game for this discussion, this year-end podcast thing we do. But yeah, regardless. I guess circling back around to me, I've got another 2023 platformer that is N64 inspired. It's called Cavern of Dreams.
I thought you were going to talk about Pseudo Regalia.
No, I still have not played the Sexy Goat game for more than a few minutes. I think I played it just long enough to record a title screen for it, and then for the last retrospective thing we did, and then that was it. Cavern of Dreams, N64 inspired Unity game released on Steam, where you play as a little dragon dude. This one wasn't as good as Corn Kidz. It is a more straight up collectathon. It's, I'd say where it differs from a lot of other games in that genre is that there's less of even a token combat engine in it. I think you can swing your tail, it's been a while, but for the most part, it's not really focused on killing enemies or anything. It's more about soaking in atmosphere, because like the first level is like the most chill, relaxed thing I've ever played in a while. I'd say, like, if I had to describe it, it's like Banjo-Kazooie by the way of Klonoa, almost, where it's got, like, the art style of, like, Banjo-Kazooie, closer to that, but sort of the feel and, like, the art direction, like, the wacky visuals and enemy designs that would come with a Klonoa game, and it's dream-themed as well, so that sort of bleeds over. There are, like, maybe 4 or 5 levels. It's hard to remember at this point, but there's lots of really weird looking visuals. It has like, you know what it also reminded me of, and this is going to be the weirdest pull from the recesses of my brain that I've made on the show, but it reminds me of a game called Mickey's Magical Mirror for the GameCube. Because that game also takes place in a dream, and it's like a point and click game on the GameCube for some reason, where you play as Mickey and you explore a mansion. It was made by Capcom, but it's for like really young children, and that game has like a certain atmosphere and feel to it that is very relaxed and very beginner friendly, that I think I felt some of that in Cavern of Dreams. I don't know, like 12 months later, kind of removed from when I first played this game, because I played it in like February of last year. It's hard to remember a lot of specifics. Like the story was meh. It's kind of similar to Spyro 3, where you're a dragon rescuing dragon eggs. It does have the best 100% reward I've seen in a collectathon in a really long time, because usually it's like you get a postcard, or you get like the stupid spinning jump in Mario 64, where it's like, okay, but the whole game's already over, so what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Like, probably the Super Flame in Spyro 2 is the best besides this, but in this game, you play as a dragon, and when you get 100%, you get the ability to fly. And then you could just completely wreck the final boss and all the levels, and you can, like, soar over everything, and it's really fun just to be able to break the game like that, because you did everything. And it's kind of hard to know what to say about it other than that. It was kind of dull. But I know if you like relaxing games, if you like to just kick back and soak in some chill vibes, then it's pretty good for that, I guess.
I like that.
I've also heard of this game, believe it or not. I've actually heard of this game too.
Yeah.
Ain't that a kick in the head?
I mean, do you normally not hear about these kinds of games?
I mean, it's not an anime
RPG.
It's not an anime RPG with big booba, so no, clearly not.
Yeah.
That's like the only thing I play.
Mm-hmm. And farming simulators.
Is that what Golden Sun's like?
You know?
I'm
sure there is one.
Is there a single... I'm trying to think of a tasteful way to say this. Is there a single buxom woman in the Golden Sun franchise?
Buxom?
Yeah, like a woman with big boobs, and like the character design draws attention to it.
A woman? I don't think so. I know in Dark Dawn, like the female baddie kind of has like a succubus-esque design. Let's see.
This is important info.
This is important information. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not about, like, big booba, but, like, I don't know.
Speaking
she has
of
like a
which,
heart where her belly is.
have you guys
Does that
ever
count?
heard of a television show for children called Booba?
Yes, I know what Booba is, and my baby cousin, well, when she was a baby, she was like obsessed with that fucking show. Whenever I had a babysitter, she would always be watching that show. That and The Wiggles.
The Wiggles.
Yeah.
Well, the Wiggles
man.
had a better soundtrack than Booba. I think we can all agree on that.
I mean, that is factually correct.
I don't know. I don't think I'm familiar enough with the soundtracks to comment.
Fruit salad?
Yummy, yummy.
I know fruit
Yummy,
salad, but it's like
Hot potato?
honestly, I don't remember hot potato.
That's more than Booba has. Booba has giant, I don't know, testicle monsters dancing
Giant
around.
boob.
And also, there's some really
no.
terrible CGI in it. It was made in
Yes.
Wales by the same aliens who made Teletubbies, except they wanted to make a show
Those damn whales.
to teach children how to exercise or something. So that's why the Boobas do nothing but dance all the time. Anyways, who's next?
I think King is next,
Well,
because I like him. He's nice.
I didn't actually like. There's actually not a whole lot I played that wasn't from the year. Like, I guess I played Elden Ring.
All right.
But like, I don't know what to say about Elden Ring, dude. Like, what,
All right,
what do
well,
you want me to say about that? It was
treat
pretty
me
good.
as someone who knows nothing about Elden Ring except that it's a Souls-like, and then kind of go
Well,
from
it's an
there.
open world. It plays a lot like Dark Souls, except it's open world. You have a jump button,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it's like the design of it has a lot more Souls going on than strictly open world stuff. I think the appealing thing about Elden Ring is that the world is big, but most of the stuff you find are like levels or dungeons,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. There's not really much else going on. But that's fine, because that's what the Souls games were always about anyway.
Right.
It's just this one is huge. I guess you could think of them like shrines in Zelda or the caves.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, most of those caves are little mini dungeons.
Okay.
And you usually have like a boss at the end, and then they give you like an item or a spell or something.
Okay.
And those are like pretty all right. You know, to be able to make as many of them as they do, they're not all winners, I guess. But
Yeah.
if you enjoy the Souls gameplay formula of fighting tough enemies and then a boss at the end, those are like, every time you find one of those, that's exactly what you get. And some of those puzzles in there are actually pretty cool. There's one where they all sort of use similar skins, like the catacombsy. I don't know if you've ever played Bloodborne, but they're kind of like the Chalice dungeons, which were
Mm-hmm.
randomly generated dungeons that all
That's
kind
the
of use
game
the same
that
skin.
has the cleric monster, right? That makes the
Yeah.
exo wheeze sound.
Yeah. Yes. But there was a puzzle in one of those that was, you were going up like a flight of stairs, like a spiral staircase sort of deal, and you would emerge in a room that looked exactly like the room you were just in, but it actually wasn't the room you were just in. It's slightly different, and it fucks with your head in a way that I don't see games do that quite that often, because it actually looked like you were deposited into the same exact room, but you're actually like a room above the room you were just in, and it like confuses the fuck out of you, and you have to find like a secret way out of it. There's cute little puzzles in some of them, so I guess it kind of is like Breath of the Wild in that sense, where like not every shrine is a winner, but some of those puzzles are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like an open world that is in the Breath of the Wild tier, the Tears of the Kingdom style of like, it's not like a Skyrim where you just kind of walk around and talk to people and do random meaningless quests. It's more like the stuff you stumble upon will at least have been crafted by a human being and has something worth doing in it, even if it isn't like the most exciting thing in the world. And it also has the legacy dungeons, which are straight up Dark Souls levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a few dungeons in the game that are huge, and when you go through them, you're like, oh, this could have literally just been in like a Dark Souls 4 if they ever made one. And those are probably the highlight. But I think the game has a really beautiful art direction as well. The way that it uses like sunset vistas and stuff in a way that's kind of makes it feel more painterly. I really don't know the words to use other than if you look at a screenshot of Elden Ring, it's like really... Dark Souls is like real grimdark, there's some really cool looking stuff in it, but it's like for the most part a pretty consistent aesthetic going on that's like pretty common. Elden Ring has a look that's like a lot of green and a lot of yellow, and it's really unique to me. I don't know, it's not a look that I see a lot of games going for. I think it's very striking and cool, and it made finding places in the open world really its own reward as well, because you'd get to the top of a cliff and you'd be in like the Altus Plateau, which is like a rockier area, and you'd be like, holy shit, this is like a whole new game now. There's a city in the Altus Plateau. I forget what it's called specifically, like what the name of it is, but everybody knows what it is because when you get deposited out into the city, you're like at a really high part of it, and it's like this fucking huge city that you could fit like 3 different Dark Souls levels inside of. And I had to sit there for a while and just kind of look at it because the game is actually breathtaking. It's kind of incredible that humans made it. I don't know.
It's one of those games that just like you think that you've seen everything there is to see in it, but then it just kind of says, no, there's more.
And it's like not a bad thing either, because usually like you get games that are like, we have like the biggest open world ever. But like in this case, it's like, yeah, you have the biggest open world ever, but it's not like void of substance. It's like almost everywhere. Right. I'm not going to say like everything in the game is good, but like almost everywhere there's something to do that feels fulfilling. And it just impresses me. I don't know how they did it, honestly.
You know, and I'm not really like, I have played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and I've also played Elden Ring. And I don't think I can call myself like the biggest fan of these games, because like I can never bring myself to finish these games for some reason. But Elden Ring is probably the one that I spent the most time in, and it was the one that felt the most satisfying to play.
Okay.
I really liked Elden Ring, like in the 50 hours that I played. So there's, there usually just comes a part in these games where it's just like, I hit a wall, I can't beat it, and then I put it down for a while, but then like when I try to pick it back up, it's like, oh, I forgot all the mechanics and everything, and
I have a game like that we'll talk about later.
But yeah, Elden Ring is very good though.
Elden Ring is a game I would coin the term masterpiece for, I think. I don't throw it around all the time, but that's a game where I'm like, yeah.
What's your favorite of these like Soulsborne kind of games? Like, do you have like a favorite one?
Well, it was always Bloodborne. Because the way that they incorporate the Cthulhu Lovecraft shit is not something I see often, and it works exceptionally well in the Souls format. I think that game is probably my favorite horror game at the very least.
Okay.
The way that it's scary to the player is because the game is fucking hard as balls, which is actually pretty genius because a lot of the Dark Souls games can feel kind of off-putting because of that anyway. So when you throw it into like Lovecraft weird-ass monsters, some of which actually creep me the fuck out still, and I've played the game many times. It's kind of just a genius winning match of aesthetic. And Elden Ring, I go back and forth because Elden Ring's not really that. Elden Ring is much, much more high fantasy.
Yeah.
There's grimdark elements to it, but it is nowhere near to the degree of like Dark Souls, which it can be very depressing. Like Elden Ring has stuff like that, but it feels a little bit closer to something like Lord of the Rings than it does like Berserk.
Okay.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin actually worked on this game, I think,
yeah,
right? Like he did like some of the lore?
The lore.
Yeah.
So like what happened is that he went to George or Miyazaki, that is, went to George and was like, I'm a really big fan of your work. Can you write the background lore of the characters that are going to appear in the game? And then Miyazaki took that lore and wrote the game's story and events around it. So you can kind of tell that because everybody has like it's a little bit confusing sometimes because when people are of the same family, they all have like very similar names. Like there's a lot of M's and R's and shit like that because when you're part of the same family, you have to have like the same letters or some shit like that. So you can tell that there was a lot of thought put into like the royal families and shit. But it doesn't ultimately matter that much because they all kind of get destroyed in typical Souls fashion and everybody's like dying. It's a lot more than went into like Dark Souls, which is a lot more metaphorical than it is like... I think a lot of the lore going on in Dark Souls, there's a lot of intentionality behind it, but it's also they leave a fuck ton up to your own imagination intentionally as well, so that it feels a little bit more of a metaphorical story going on that people have to piece together and find their own interpretation of. And I guess in that sense, Elden Ring's a lot more straight up in what's going on, but it still works. I think probably because they have to put so many damn items in the game that if they were going to make every item in it lore relevant, it would just be like a disaster. But even then, some of them still, you can still get a good idea of what's going on. And it's a fascinating world. There's a lot of cosmic horror going on that is interesting when you dig into that kind of thing. And the DLC also released, which almost is its own video game. I know there's controversy including it in the Game Awards or whatever. I don't even know if I agree with that decision, but in terms of substance and what the DLC was, it is maybe the biggest DLC expansion that I've ever played that is close to being as long and as substantive as Dark Souls was originally. So I can kind of see the rationale of putting it there, even if it doesn't really make sense technically. So that was even good as well. So a lot of people like stuff in the DLC even more than in the base game, and I almost agree with that for some of the bosses and areas at least, because they're really. The
way to like get into the DLC is to do like some like obscure quest or something.
No.
Like I remember people were complaining about this.
No, you just have to beat Radon, and then well, you have to beat Radon and Moog. And then you go up to the Moog egg.
You get to Uranus Island.
I actually don't remember. I think you just go up to the Moog egg and you press A on it. I think all you actually have to do is beat Moog and Radon.
Okay.
For story-related reasons that I won't get into, but you beat them and you go up to Moog's egg and you just press A, and then you're in the Shadow Lands or whatever they call the. Can't remember what they're called specifically, but.
I'm gonna banish you to the Shadowlands, Jimbo.
There's a lot of names in Elden Ring. It's hard to keep track of all that shit. There's like, I mean, it's an open world Souls game that I spent like close to 200 hours playing. There's a lot of fucking names I don't remember.
Right.
The Shadowlands or whatever is, I don't know if you've seen images. If you look up Shadow the Erdtree, the main vista is there on the box art image of like, you're in the shadow of the giant tree that sits in the middle of the open world, which is usually like yellow and shining.
Yeah.
In this DLC, you're in the part of the world that is obscured by the shadow of the Erdtree, which is why it's called that. And so it's like a lot fucking darker and closer to what Dark Souls usually looks like. And that's a thick, really cool mood to have as a contrast to the base game, which wasn't usually like that, like aside from a few underground areas. And I don't know, man, it's Elden Ring. That's pretty much all I can say about it that people haven't already said. It's a really cool looking game. It has a lot of the same elements of Dark Souls, like it's bullshit hard sometimes, but really satisfying. And I think it's either this or like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild are the best open worlds I've probably ever played. Probably maybe for different reasons. But yeah.
I noticed that Sonic Frontiers was not in that short list.
Well, that's because
I have grown appreciation for that game, but
Sonic Frontiers isn't open world, it's open zone.
Exactly. There you go.
How dare I compare this to Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring?
There's no chance that game reaches
the
level of appreciation I have for those games.
Yeah, I'm just screwing around. Obviously.
I do want to revisit Elden Ring one day, but I kind of want to get it on PC and try out some of the mods.
Mm-hmm.
I want to break the game like a Kit Kat bar.
Well, you can do that.
Before you can break the game must break you.
It already did. I played it already.
I know. So you're ready then.
I even talked about it on this goddamn podcast 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Fuck. Where does the time go?
I probably edited that episode, and I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was the 2022 wrap up.
I do feel like that game came out a while ago, and then all of a sudden there was like DLC for it last year, and then they announced like a arena shooter Elden Ring game at the Game Awards or something. It was like some kind of
it's
Elden
like a
Ring
battle royale, sort of. It's like a 3-person multiplayer co-op game where you fight the Souls bosses in like, you know how the arena shrinks in battle royale games? It's sort of like that. It's not like actually a PvP game. It's like a co-op game where you do like the Dark Souls stuff. You fight the enemies, you get the items, you make a build, and you fight the bosses with friends.
That's kind of a cool idea.
And it sounds pretty cool. It's like clearly like a side project they were working on with the Elden Ring engine. It seems cool.
Okay.
It's not directed by Miyazaki. I think it's probably the first game From Software's made in a long time that Miyazaki hasn't directed.
Since like Dark Souls 2 or something, right?
Well, he even was director on Dark Souls 2, I think. He just wasn't like... He was still heavily involved with it, is more what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
And this, I'm pretty sure this project, he really doesn't have much... I think he even talked about after Elden Ring that he was training a lot of his staff to succeed him and just work on their own shit, so...
Okay.
That looks cool, but that isn't out yet.
It's your turn, Ryan.
My turn. Okay. Well, I got one more game that's like in the wrap-up thing.
All right.
And again, it's nothing I won't like delve like too deep into. But Majora's Mask got an unofficial PC port.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was honestly pretty great. I played that on my Steam Deck, and yeah, I had myself a great old time with it. And I was also kind of like thinking, because, you know, usually when we get closer to the end of the year, I always start thinking about like what games I played, you know, just to get ready for this, because like this is something I do look forward to. But like this year was like pretty difficult because, again, I didn't really play a whole lot this year, but that's also because there wasn't a lot that really grabbed my attention, and there wasn't a lot that kept my attention. Like there was some like Grand Blue game I wasted $40 on. I played it for an hour. I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. And that's crazy because it's a JRPG action game with Big Boopa.
Yeah.
So like you thought I would be all over that, but no. But you know, just kind of going through the year, I was wondering if I was kind of growing out of games, I guess, because like I was doing a lot more audiobooks this year. I've been reading a lot. Like I made my way through the Lord of the Rings books and The Hobbit, getting into Brandon Sanderson's work, you know, getting into the work of C.S. Lewis, a lot of stuff like that. And, you know, I was just thinking like, well, is this more like the thing that I'm getting into? But then they released this Majora's Mask unofficial re-release, and I played through it, and it had its teeth in me. Like it sunk its teeth and it did not let go, and I was hooked. So then I started kind of revisiting older games. I kind of had a little bit with that when I played Golden Sun earlier this year. The first two games on NSO. I played through Sonic Adventure, like Sega Dreamcast Sonic Adventure, and it didn't let go. I got back into Halo Reach as well, like doing like multiplayer shit. And it was just like, yeah, I forgot when this game was like super fucking fun. And then Marvel Rivals comes out. I was like, oh, hey, remember Overwatch? I'm like, yeah, I'll get to you in a bit. But like, I'm trying to play Halo Reach right now, you know? So like, I was more like into like the older games that like, that kind of like, I remembered why and I was kind of like reminding myself like, yeah, no, these are my favorite games. And there's a reason why these are my favorites. Majora's Mask is my favorite. It's because it has like really cool dungeons, really cool world, and an awesome story, you know? And being able to play it again, like 60 frames per second, full screen, like it felt good. And I'm really excited for when they get like the randomizer shit working, so I can play like full screen rando and shit. Like there's other ways to do it, sure, but like I want to do it on my Steam Deck, you know? So that's exciting.
You know what's crazy to me is that Marvel Rivals came out. It looks awesome, like exactly my kind of shit, because I played the hell out of Overwatch. And I just haven't played it. I have it. I played it for like a few hours, and it was fun. Yeah, I played a few matches. I'm like, this game is really fun. It's like old Overwatch, but with Marvel characters. It's made for me, and then I proceeded to not play it. Yeah. So I don't know what the deal is there. I
can't tell you why I stopped playing it either, but like, because it was fun, but it just there were other things for me to do.
So I get you there.
Yeah. Played as my boy Venom. He was great.
Venom is really fun in that.
Yeah, and they had like a new update. They added like the Fantastic Four, and I like, oh yeah, I want to check them out. Just haven't done it yet.
Looks cool.
Yeah. Maybe we could all play. Maybe we can get Michael to play.
Yeah, I've never played a match of Overwatch in my life, so I'll probably get my arse kicked.
I mean, it's like not exactly like it's not an FPS.
Oh, it isn't?
More like an over-the-shoulder game. Okay. I mean, you can shoot. Some characters can shoot, but some of them are like melee characters.
Okay. I know that there's like a dog shark in it or something.
Yeah, Jeff.
No, it's like a land shark or something.
Yeah, it's Jeff the land shark.
My name is Jeff.
Okay, I didn't realize he had a name like he was a person. I just thought he was like a gremlin.
I don't really know what he's from, like what comic. I know he's a Marvel character, obviously, but I'm not really familiar with him.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Howard the Duck in the realm of I don't really know where you originally came from or what you do, but you exist.
Like being a cop, my favorite movie is Howard the Duck.
The moment they add Howard the Duck in that fucking game, let's go. Let's fucking do that.
They'll probably do it. If Jeff the Land Shark gets to be a character, then it's possible.
Yeah.
Well, it's confirmed. Howard the Duck is still my favorite movie.
I think one of my favorite things, I know this is a little off topic, but like about Howard the Duck, apparently he was like in Avengers Endgame in a blink and you miss it moment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was neat. Where's the Howard the Duck movie?
We should get a Howard the Duck movie. I actually think they were trying to make one or something, and then it like fell through. I remember hearing that.
Oh my God! I'm on the Howard the Duck planet!
Like, not to get off topic, but since we were talking about Marvel, I can't remember if it was 2024 or 2023 where people just decided, wait a minute, I don't need to pay $25 to go to the theater and watch Brie Larson. So I'm not going to go see, it wasn't called The Eternals, it was The Marvels or something.
Yeah.
Completely crashed at the box office because everybody's sick of all this multiverse shit and nobody cares anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a Marvel movie in a while. Well, the last one I saw was Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I think Ant-Man was the same, where it's just like no one watched it because it's just like, who gives a shit?
I didn't watch it. I like the Ant-Man movies, and that most people don't care that much about them, but I didn't even see the third one.
My fiance watched that movie and she said it was a mistake.
It looks like a mistake.
That's her glowing review.
Well, then they like decided to build up to the next Thanos, and then the actor was accused of like sexual harassment and assault or something.
That was a disaster.
Yeah, that was Kane.
So now they're like, Rodney Dangerfield is coming back to the franchise, and he's playing. It's not Rodney Dangerfield. What's his name again? The guy with the mustache?
Robert Downey Jr.?
That's it. Robert Downey Jr. is
What?
coming back to the Marvel franchise, and he's playing Doctor Doom. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing?
That's crazy that you got that name.
I kind of have an idea of like what they might be doing because Chris Evans is also slated to come back. So it's like, oh, we have Iron Man, but now he's evil Doctor Doom. It's like, we're going to bring back Chris Evans as Captain America, but he's evil like Red Skull, Hydra person or something.
Ooh.
Like evil alter ego versions of these characters. Could be cool.
The problem with it is that they need to establish hero characters that we care about as much as the old ones. And it's like,
yeah,
if they keep making movies like the way that they do, then like it's kind of, I don't really know who even is in the Avengers. I actually just don't know. I know that Sam Wilson's Captain America, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. They actually released the Captain America movie, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Harrison
I haven't seen
Ford.
that. I don't even give a fuck. Harrison Ford's like Red Hulk, right?
Yep.
That's crazy. Red Hulk. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of the thing, is that they missed their shot to bring back Red Hulk, you know? Now we don't have a Hulk movie. And we
Why
never
is
will.
Red Hulk in a Captain America movie? Why not just make a Hulk movie? Is that still like in rights limbo?
I think so, yeah.
That's crazy.
They couldn't get the Crouching
I don't
Tiger,
really care
Hidden
about
Dragon
Marvel
guy to
movies
come
anymore,
back and make
honestly.
another Hulk movie.
You know, I saw Venom, The Last Dance.
I didn't even see that.
With the
That
giant
movie
CGI
was
bugs.
delightful. Yeah! I love that. I mean, I love those movies. They're not great, but I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I loved the first two movies
Yeah.
for what they are.
Yeah, you know, I would say if you liked the first two, you would like the third one. Enough.
I
You know,
probably
you like it
would.
enough.
I just haven't gotten around to it.
Did you know
It's cute.
that those movies were written, and I think the third one is directed by the screenwriter / adaptation person for the first 50 Shades of Grey movie?
Let's fucking go.
Hell yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dakota Johnson was the main female lead in 50 Shades, and she was also
in-
Madam Web.
Yes, my
Well, you know what, actually? It makes sense.
Wait, what makes sense?
Because the Venom movies are like romantic comedies anyway. So, like,
between
that
a
makes
boy and
a lot
his
of
blob.
sense. Yeah. Well, Venom and Eddie have a very, like, married couple dynamic going on, which is one of the most amusing parts of those movies.
Yeah, I just want a movie where Spider-Man and Venom do cool shit together. That's it. I'll be all right.
But what about
Literally all I'm asking
Spider-Man
for.
3?
I
about
love
it?
Spider-Man
Wasn't
3.
Topher Grace a great Eddie Brock?
He was not a great Eddie Brock, but I still love that movie, and I always will. You can never make me hate that movie.
See, I hate that movie. I hate it.
That movie is hilarious.
It's
one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
Somebody make a mashup of Tobey Maguire doing the Bully Maguire from Spider-Man 3 with the Joker doing his little dance on the staircase.
Oh, it exists.
Somebody has done that already? Yeah.
I know it exists. If someone has not done that yet, then we have failed.
Yeah, as a society.
Yes, as a species.
All right, well, now that we've talked about Marvel, one last game pre this year that I want to touch on, and it's something that you guys have played. You should have plenty to say about it. I finally finished the original Final Fantasy VII last year.
Yay!
And it was pretty good. The following contains endgame spoilers for Final Fantasy VII. Viewer discretion is advised. I was surprised with myself because I went in expecting it to be like mediocre. By the end of it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's funny because I remember you, Ryan, making a video 100 years ago. I think it was your first Golden Sun review of the first one, where you're like, this game has a crappy story but good gameplay, but Final Fantasy VII has a great story and mediocre gameplay or something like that. Like they were like opposites. And I kind of felt the opposite though. Like I really didn't care that much about the story. It was okay, I guess.
Hold on a minute. Let me ask, do you still agree with this, Ryan? Because that probably was a while ago, right?
I mean, it was a while ago, but I guess it was more so not that Final Fantasy had crappy or mediocre gameplay, but it was more like the gameplay itself wasn't. It's like one of the things with like Golden Sun is that like it is one of the kind of JRPGs where it's like there are like dungeons and there's like puzzles in these dungeons where you're actually like interacting with the environment and everything.
It's more
and
mechanics
there's a lot of
driven.
JRPGs where it's like the dungeons are more like gauntlets, and it was more so that Final Fantasy VII leaned closer to the more like gauntlet dungeon design as opposed to something like Golden Sun or Wild Arms or Sea of Stars, where it's more about like interacting with the space. 7 is more focused on other
that distinction.
Yeah. So maybe I didn't phrase it quite as eloquently, almost 10 years ago, but that's more so what I was trying to say.
Right.
Not that it's bad, it's just that it's not as like interactive.
I mean, like you've
for
always
lack of a
had
better phrase.
legitimate criticisms of the Golden Sun stories, like they're all really chatty, like just dialogue just vomited up on the screen, and none of it means anything. Well, there's just so many words to say very little. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I would agree that Final Fantasy VII probably has a better story than that, at least. But yeah, I guess the gameplay I liked because of the materia system, which kind of surprised me, because I think it's basically a spin on the Magicite system from 6, if I'm not mistaken. I never got far enough in that game to unlock magic, unfortunately, but from what I remember, you like equip a Magicite to somebody, and then your AP experience points like go into the Magicite, you unlock more magic from that or something. And materia is kind of similar. And it, like the more experience points you get for the materia, it levels up, and then you can get more interesting types of spells. And there are glitches where you can there was some kind of like blue materia that was in the final dungeon that I used a glitch to get like 6 of, or tried to, and couldn't get it to work. But there are lots of interesting materias. Blue magic is really good in Final Fantasy VII, very useful. There's like some kind of worm enemy off the coast of Costa del Sol, I think, where like you fight these worms and they use like a blue magic move that like casts Shell, Protect, and Haste at the same time or something, and it's like, whoa. So the game has a lot of fun, broken stuff like that, where like if you know the systems and use your materia well and gather all your blue magic and stuff. I don't think it's called blue magic in 7, but that's what it is.
Called like enemy skill materia.
That's it. That's the one. So there are like lots of different little heuristics and strats that you can come up with to fight enemies, and that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the third disc is where it got really good, because that's where the game opens up and you get a lot of the really overpowered materia. Like
it's also funny because that's where the game ends.
Oh yeah, but you know, like you got knights. That's where you unlock stuff like Knights of the Round, and you can go for like the Colosseum and stuff, and a bunch of extra dungeons. There's that one weapon enemy that keeps running away from you, and then you blow it up, and then you can go up to like this jungle on top of a plateau or something, and there's like a dungeon up there. Like that's where the game, I thought, got really fun. The first two discs.
Beat the rupee weapon?
No, I didn't beat the one that was underwater, and I didn't beat the one in the desert. I probably tried to fight the one in the desert a couple times, but I don't think I managed to kill it.
The one underwater was the emerald weapon, right?
I think
Am I crazy?
so, yeah. But I got the other ones.
Yeah, I remember playing that for the first time. That shit freaked me out.
Yes.
And then
I don't think in the original FF7 you could even fight those. Like they added that in some kind of release of the game.
Oh, that might have been like an international version of Final Fantasy VII or something. So maybe it was originally in.
I haven't fought those at all because I think you need to be like max level or some shit, and like because it's like a super boss. I don't know. I haven't done it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The story, I thought the first two discs felt really slow and kind of meandering, because like most of it's just like when it opens up and you're like, okay, you're eco-terrorists trying to take down, like we've replaced the evil empire archetype from like Final Fantasy 2 and 6 with essentially a big corporation, which is an interesting kind of modern day spin on the classic Final Fantasy setup. And you've like, oh, we're setting up our villain. It's President Shinra, and he's got all these minions under him, these executives. And you're going to face off with them over the course of the game and blow up all these reactors. And then Sephiroth shows up. He kills President Shinra, and then it just turns into a wild goose chase for the next 30 hours. Where you
I have a similar problem with FF7's. I love the opening Shinra part.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite part of the game still, just because I think that as a setting is like fucking crazy good.
Yeah, it's like Blade Runner.
The city like blocked out with pollution, you can't see the fucking stars. It's like, I love it so much. It's like one of the best settings in any piece of fiction I've ever seen. It's really cool. And then like you get out and you're just kind of in a Final Fantasy world, and it's like, find Sephiroth. It's kind of like when you play Breath of the Wild and it says destroy Ganon. That's how I feel when I get out of Midgar, because it's just like, okay, find Sephiroth. It's like, okay. And then it really, part of the reason it took me forever to get into the game is because it just kept losing me there. Because you're deposited from one of the coolest places ever into, this is not a disservice to the world of FF7, because there are a lot of cool places in the world, but it just deposits you into like Calm or whatever. It's kind of like,
which feels like generic
we're just kind
first starter RPG town, pretty much.
It's a really striking contrast, and I get why it's there, because it makes sense to like see a part of the world that's not beset by pollution and stuff, so that you can see the actual planet you want to protect. But I don't know, that whole section of the mid game just kind of always lost me, and I had to power through, especially the fucking gold saucer prison segment. Like drove me insane.
Yeah. You know, I've always been on like the opposite side of that, where it's like, I remember when I first played this years and years and years and years and years ago on the PS3, I was really bored in Midgar, you know? I mean, maybe it was because like everything's everything's so drab, everything's caught up in pollution. It's just like, it visually was not very engaging. And so like I had a hard time getting through that. But then when I got out of Midgard, and then I would be like going to, you know, Cosmo Canyon, or like actually inside the Gold Saucer or Costa del Sol, or, you know, literally anywhere else that was in Midgar, it had my attention. It was fun going on like this globe-trotting adventure, going on this wild goose chase, because you got to see like all these really cool environments, you know? I like that.
I think eventually that's where I got. It's just the first few places they take you to are like, I don't know, I just really was not fucking with that.
Starter RPG
they were
town,
safe.
generic cave dungeon, marshland, you know, like those are the first
and
couple places you go to.
I guess it wouldn't have been so bad, because I've gotten through the other Final Fantasies, and they're not like, the places you go are like whatever. But Midgar is such a striking opening city, unlike pretty much anything that was in the previous games, or at least the ones that I had played.
Yeah, it sets a tone for
getting
something,
out
and
of
then
it
kind of
into regular Final Fantasy was just way more jarring than it would have been.
yeah, it's like a tease.
But ultimately I do have an appreciation for the rest of the game now that I've finished it. It's kind of one of those games that like once you finish the whole thing, you're like, you look back and you're like, oh, you know what? It all kind of comes together. There's some parts that drag, some parts that are awesome, and then it has a cool finale.
Yeah. Problem for me was by the time I got to the finale, I was so over leveled that I like two-shotted the final boss.
I really don't think I wasn't really over leveled, and Sephiroth just rips in half. I do not think Sephiroth is built to be a challenge. I don't know, maybe if I was a kid he would have been a challenge, but I really didn't even interface with everything in FF7. I didn't get all the enemy skills. I got a few of them. I definitely was not over leveled. And Sephiroth just kind of crumpled in half in a few turns.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, they do that shit where they split you up into like two parties or something. So maybe that was why.
Yeah, that was a little strange to me because I definitely was not leveling my entire party equally.
Yep.
So that was a bit of a
there's another
slap
game
in the
we're going to
face.
talk about later that has an experience share problem.
Uh-oh.
But thankfully you can kind of limp through that part of Sephiroth. So
Yeah.
but I don't know, like I think it shocked me because I had just gotten off like the final boss of FF5 is like ridiculous. At least it was for me.
Yeah. Great boss though.
So then you get to Sephiroth, and I guess it's just because Sephiroth, if Sephiroth wasn't Sephiroth, if he wasn't like gaming icon villain,
Yeah.
I also
like when
kicked
you
my
play
fucking
Resident
teeth
Evil
in
1
Kingdom Hearts. Like
and Wesker just falls over and that's it.
he's harder in Kingdom Hearts than he is in FF7. I don't know. It just was interesting to me. I didn't think it was like a bad fight necessarily, just because
It
it
was
had
kind of
cool
underwhelming.
supernova shit that he does. But it definitely like took me off guard how he just kind of was easy.
Mhm.
I don't know.
And speaking of Sephiroth being one of gaming's most iconic villains, I don't get it. He really didn't do
boy.
much for me personally.
Somebody didn't play Crisis Core.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Somebody
that I
didn't consume the extended lore.
I'm sorry I didn't read the manga before I came to this podcast, but
I
I
feel
played.
like the extended lore makes him worse. I don't know that any of that was a service to him, really.
You
to
mean
be
to
honest.
you mean to tell me that the hit movie Final Fantasy VII Advent Children did Sephiroth dirty?
I don't have
I mean,
context for
to
this.
be
so-
honest, he barely was in that movie, and when he was, it was actually kind of cool. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That movie exists to have the fight at the end.
Yes, and also the One Wing Angel orchestration. That was very good.
What doesn't work about Sephiroth to you? Because I think it works. He works for me.
I thought like the Nibelheim, I think was the name of the Cloud's hometown. I thought that's flashback sequence where you see, well, technically it wasn't Cloud, but we're not getting into that.
Ooh.
Well, he was there, but the whole twist. That flashback sequence I thought was well done because he's doing like crits on like a giant wolf or dragon or something, and he looks awesome. And he does have like a certain charisma to him, like the way that he acts during that sequence. So he seems kind of cool, and then when he goes crazy, it kind of has like some intensity to it at least because his musical theme. It's really more like when you look at the totality of what he does in the game after that, he gets knocked into the life stream, I think. He falls into the planet like Cloud does later in the game, and he somehow ends up at the northern crater. He remote controls Genova to transform into a Sephiroth and then walk all the way from there to the northern crater. And then in the meanwhile, nothing is really happening except he eventually decides that he wants to steal the huge black materia. I mean, like, that sequence is fine, I guess. I don't know, like, I just thought he was kind of boring. Besides that flashback sequence, which is cool, like, and it was kind of neat that he just kills President Shinra stone dead and the plot just kind of veers. Like, I don't like leaving Midgar, but that moment at least is shocking and works on its own to just find this huge sword embedded in what was presumably the main antagonist. But, like, for the rest of the game, it just seemed like generic mustache twirler villain. His plan is basically like every JRPG villain. He wants to become a godlike being with ultimate power.
You see, you are the power of the crystal, refined into the shape of a girl by the god moon. once I fuse your soul power with the Earth Navel, Terragaia's Heartstream will... And that's my plan.
When X-Death does it, at least they made X-Death like a heightened mustache twirler, or like he's the most exaggerated villain you've ever seen, and that's kind of fun. But with Sephiroth, I'm pretty sure they were trying to play it straight. I don't know, I don't get what it is about him that people loved so much that he's one of the most iconic video game villains of all time.
He's hot.
I mean, it's probably has something to do with him killing Aerith. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Except for me, that part, because like I know why he does it, because he was trying to prevent her from using the white materia to cast Holy to counteract Meteor. That's why he kills her, but it's like, why didn't he just do that like 20 hours ago? Why didn't you just kill the whole party? Like, when you do stuff like that, especially in the game where you're bringing people back with, because like part of the reason that scene didn't work for me, because I know that that's like one of the most famous gaming scenes or whatever's Aerith's death scene, and that people were shocked and they were really sad. But part of the reason it didn't work for me is just the presentation, to be honest, because like those CGI cutscenes don't look that great. Like the whole game doesn't really look that great. But at least with like the in-game graphics, it's something you can kind of get used to. Like after a while, you just accept that that's what the game looks like, and then you kind of appreciate it for what it is. There's a game I'll be talking about later on that kind of channels some of that. But with the CG cutscenes, when you watch them, it just like comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh, you just know that when the game came out, the producers are like, oh man, this CGI looks so great. Gaming is never gonna look better than this. And then like 25 years later, I'm playing this game or however long, and I'm looking at it, it's like, ugh, this CGI doesn't look great. It looks stiff, the movements don't look right, and it takes me out of the scene.
I killed your father, and I'm killing you because it turns out you were the final crystal all along! Now, I shall escape while everyone is distracted by this poorly animated CGI cutscene!
And I'm sorry if that makes me a shallow person, but I just did not feel anything when Aerith died.
Every time I saw a CG cutscene, I thought it looked like Lego Island. So I can't really disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Aerith is that it's like, it's basically impossible to put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, that is true.
It's basically like you can't really exist playing video games without knowing about it, which means you had to have played it before you knew about it. I don't know. It's like an effective moment for me, at least. But I really wish there was a reality I could exist in where I didn't know that this happened, because I really think it's one of those things that I can appreciate, but it just, it's basically impossible for it to have ever impacted me in the way that it clearly has impacted so many people. And I can respect it. It's just one of those unfortunate things where I don't think I'm ever going to fully get that either. Like, I think it's cool as a thing that happens in the sense that you can be invested in Aerith mechanically, and then suddenly she's just not there anymore and you can't use her. I think that's really cool as a way to embody somebody's death in the way that now you feel her absence.
Yeah.
Because she can never be a character again, which is cool. But then, it's interesting because the materia system in 7 basically means that none of the characters have any specialties beyond their limit breaks. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
And I think you even get her materia back.
I always thought that oh, sorry, go ahead. What?
All I was going to say is I think after Aerith dies, you get her materia back somehow, though, and maybe I'm wrong.
But I always found her, I have never really been one to care much for spoilers, because to me, it's just when you hear, Snape kills Dumbledore, it's okay, cool. To someone who doesn't have the context, that doesn't really mean anything, So what matters more is okay, if I know a plot point, what matters more is how does it get to that point? It is the journey of getting to the twist. That kind of makes the twist, or that makes the death, get that reaction out of me. So it's when I was playing 7, it's just like, okay, I know Aerith dies, but I was not expecting to grow attached to Aerith. You know, I wasn't expecting to like her as much as I did, and when she died, I sure as hell wasn't expecting to have that little scene after you beat the boss where the characters are actually reacting to her death. You know, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I think that was the death itself is not really... Them reacting to it was probably what got me more than her actually dying.
Yeah.
Which I can probably agree with, because the scene of her actually dying it's just a thing I've seen so many times already.
But you don't really see the people reacting, you know? I didn't see it. I didn't see, like, when Yuffie was trying to, like, hold back tears and then she broke down.
I think another problem is that in the original game, I guess it's the only one that exists other than the remake now, but the people who directly react to Aerith dying are the people in your party. Do you want to know the people who were in my party?
Oh no, who were they?
It was Sid and Ketshi.
Oh my fucking god!
So a lot of that was kind of lost, because I think it's commendable that whoever is in your party will have direct commentary on a lot of events in the game. So it kind of makes it feel like the party you pick is, you know, more part of whatever part of the game you're in, and it adds some variance per playthrough, because whoever you have in your party is going to have stuff to say for a lot of going on. For that scene, don't think that was a good idea, because Sid and Ketshi have almost nothing to say, because Sid just joined and Ketshi is a villain for most of the game until he isn't. So it was a very strange moment, because they had almost nothing to say. So that was interesting. But I did see... Later, I would look on YouTube to see the other people's reactions.
And one of the last things Ketshi did before that happened is basically say, "I've kidnapped your mother," and Maureen Aerith. So,
well, I was using them... I think I had just gotten... I don't remember why I was using them. I liked Ketchi's Limit Break or something. I was trying to level up their Limit Breaks. I really should have used, like, Tifa and Barrett or something. That probably would have worked better.
Yeah, I used Tifa and Yuffie, so I got pretty good shit out of that. I got the feels. And I'm man enough to admit that I cried.
I just can't... Because I agree with your philosophy on spoilers.
Yes.
That's pretty much how I approach most things. But in this game, it's just... It's like the Star Wars moment.
I was going to bring that up.
It's not just a spoiler. It's like a fact of life that I have not only heard about, but seen so many times, referenced everywhere. I've seen the cutscene, and it's like, I saw the journey to it, but it's almost impossible for me to have any, like, an emotional reaction, especially when it's presented in the way that it is. Maybe if it was like, I don't know, man. Even the reactions to it didn't really, like, make me well up or anything. It was just kind of like, yeah, I guess it just, there's an emotional numbness that I couldn't quite get over, even though I was hoping I could, but I just know too much about it. I think that's with FF7 in general, is I really, really like the game a lot. But as a kid, I played, like, Kingdom Hearts and Crisis Core, and I watched Advent Children, and it, like, experiencing that stuff before playing FF7, just like, you play FF7 and you're like, oh, look at all this stuff I haven't seen before, you appreciate it, but then all of the big stuff that happens is just stuff that I'm intimately familiar with from other games, and it's kind of
just
like,
through
okay,
osmosis.
well, now I've experienced the game, but it's like almost the whole game. Like, and the rest of the parts that I did appreciate are like little moments that I didn't quite think about or didn't really know about.
And how about the
payoff? The game's fun
for Rufus Shinra, huh?
That was really funny. He's like, I think Rufus Shinra is maybe one of the funniest characters in that game, because it's funny in the remake he's presented as, like, more badass or whatever, but in the original game he's like, he hops in after his dad dies and he's like, I'm gonna fight you. He like kind of sort of follows you around. He's in the Junon parade or whatever, and he's like, I'm gonna take the weapon of the planet and use it because I'm like the smartest guy in the world apparently. And the fucker like blows him up.
Yeah.
Especially in our current moment in the world, it is a very cathartic thing to witness, I think.
Yeah. So you're saying that Diamond Weapon's gonna come wipe out next?
If we have a Diamond Weapon, who knows? You know what? Maybe we have a live stream.
I mean, we have plenty of live streams on Twitch.
I don't want to get too sidetracked, but there was something I was trying to say earlier that I completely forgot about because of the Aerith thing. Sephiroth. We were once
Yeah.
talking about Sephiroth.
Yes.
The reason Sephiroth works for me is a largely thematic thing in the sense that Sephiroth, to me, it's almost hard for me to know whether Sephiroth's even still there or if it's Jenova. And I think it's a really cool contrast to Cloud, who it's like, who is Cloud? Like, that's the whole point of his character, is who the fuck is Cloud, because he's so influenced by all this genetic shit and Zack's memories. And it's like, I think that as foils to each other, they work so well that, especially as they're both like genetically engineered soldiers under the like corporate fucking world government that's going on this planet, it's a really fascinating conflict between them because Sephiroth has basically nobody except his like alien mom, and so he goes fucking crazy. But Cloud has people who are willing to pull him out of the like fucking weeds, especially Tifa. And it's like a cool moment at the end because of that, where it just made me really appreciate the struggle against him as kind of a force of nature more than like a character. I think that may be also what contributed to his iconic status, is that he really is like, a lot of villains are like, I'm gonna destroy the world, and it's like really ethereal, and like it's kind of like, I'm gonna put you into a parallel dimension or smash the universe together or whatever, and you only have their words.
I'm gonna put you in null space, Sonic.
Yeah, you only have their words. Sephiroth summons Meteor, and at the end of the game, you can see the fucking Meteor, like it's Majora's Mask or some shit. Like, I think that's probably shit like that. Even for me, that part of the game was really like somber and kind of a little bit scary in some places, because that thing's just hovering over there, and there's no like the music changes, and you have to kind of just think about the fact that that's happening. The ending is ambiguous enough to even wonder if they like because I think overall it is a happy ending, but it's one of those things where Sephiroth did enough damage to the planet and to Aerith and to like fucking everybody basically, that I think he just kind of, for me at least, is one of the more iconic villains in games. Maybe his moment-to-moment character work is kind of funny sometimes, but I don't know. I think that it's an interesting contrast between the two, and I think that the gravitas of his actions are felt in a way that most other Final Fantasies, I don't know that I felt quite the same way about. And I love X-Death. I think he's hilarious.
Yes.
What about Xenos?
Xenos, I love too.
The
He's
abusive
great.
boyfriend.
Yes.
But I also love him because he's hilarious.
Yes.
So I don't know. Sephiroth I don't love because he's hilarious. I love because he's actually, like, he felt menacing to me and like a force of nature. And like, I get it. He's also hot. People, that's probably a reason why people like him.
I mean, he's no Cloud. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, all I'm going to say is that Cloud and Sephiroth are probably the two most popular male characters of the game. So do with that what you will.
Yeah.